I can't remember the exact year. I think it was probably around about 2010. And so Baba came to me etherically on waking one morning, and he asked my permission to take me very close to death, to hold the frequency for the individual, the planet and the collective. And of course I said yes. And then it began to happen. I was actually working away from home at the time, several hours away from my home, and I started to get ill. When I was in the energy and working, I was fine, and then when I wasn't in the energy, I started to get sicker and sicker. And the people that were hosting me said I should go home, and I said, no, I'm just going to finish what I came to do, then I'll go home. So I finished, like, if you want to call it, the contract. I did all the work I had to do. And then I drove for 6 hours back to my home. I was in Anglesey at that time. And I went immediately to my doctor, and I saw the duty doctor, which was my own doctor. And he said, oh, you've probably got a virus, go home, take some paracetamol, it'll probably pass. But it didn't pass. Every day I would wake up feeling just worse and worse. I would drag myself into the doctors, always seeing different doctors. Sometimes I'd be crying, I was feeling so ill. Sometimes they would make me go through a nurse first to see if I needed an appointment with a doctor. It was a horrendous journey. And ultimately I got so sick that a doctor had to come out, and he immediately got me into hospital. And it was a national health hospital. It was pretty frightening, as national health hospitals are or were at that time in UK. I was so ill that I couldn't read a book, I couldn't watch the television. I was just lying in bed. I could just about manage to go to the toilet. I couldn't shower myself. I remember my friend came in and she looked at me and she looked really scared. I actually had different doctors, like, coming every day, and they took blood tests, and then one of them came to me probably on about the 5th day, and he said, well, I'm surprised to see that you're still conscious, because your CRP, that's creative reactive protein that shows the inflammation in the body, it's showing at over 300 and death is around 400. So yeah, he got me pretty close to death. I was in the National Health Hospital then for another 5 days. My eyes were yellow. I was just getting more and more ill. I just held on to the fact that Sai Baba said, I'll take you very close to death. I won't take you into death, although I have no fear of death. I had private medical insurance. My friends, my family and I were actually begging the doctors in the National Health Hospital to get me into the private hospital. But they didn't seem to know how to do it. But then on the 10th day, at last, it was managed, and I got into a private hospital. And it was like coming from hell into heaven. I was very, very sick, but I had my own, above a doctor, what's the name? Give me the name. I had my own consultant. He came in every day. He did a full MRI scan of my head. He did a full CT scan of my body and couldn't find anything. So ultimately he gave me intravenously into my arm. He gave me antibiotics. They brought the CRP, the creative reactive protein, down a little bit, but nowhere near normal. And Bupa was the name of the private health service that I was with, and they were saying to him, oh, you've got to get her out of hospital, you need to treat her privately, we can't have her staying in hospital any longer. I'd already been in, I think, about a month. So he started to treat me with high-dose steroids, and he labelled me with temporal arteries. And I could never have had temporal arteries because here my temples would have been very sensitive, and he would have had to do a biopsy. He did none of those things. So he just labelled me with something, put me on high-dose steroids, which was all part of the plan. It blew me open like 350 degrees. I couldn't sleep. I was getting information all of the time. Ultimately, I was discharged from hospital, and then it became a very interesting, because it was explained to me by such a Sai Baba and what I call my team, that I'd had a walk-in experience. It wasn't a walk-in from another entity or energy, but it was all of my multidimensional selves that have been brought into full alignment. And as a result of that, I'm now able to do that for other people. And out of that, the work was almost born. Not quite, because I then had to go through probably around 5 years of various parts of my body breaking down, and then it was explained to me that the memories that were in the cells had to be released. So it's only probably maybe since about, I don't know, 2016 that the work's really been born, and it's most powerful when I'm working one-to-one with people. So do you have any questions about that?
Yes, so what is this healing about?
You'll have to read my website because I'm taken out, so I don't know. Everything that it says there, that happens. It starts with a relaxation process, and then it goes into a chakra balancing, and then it goes into the Ascended Masters coming in, so you're aligned to their frequencies and their rays, and then it goes from there that everything is released from your auric field from the beginning of time to the end of time. All of the oaths, the black magic, the curses, everything that it says there is released or removed. All parts of your heart, soul, and any other bodily parts that have been lost, stolen, destroyed, fragmented, separated, or frozen, that's quite a big one, through time and space are brought back into your auric field. I can only explain it's like having an operation on your whole auric field. And this is not just from this lifetime, it's from the moment of your first incarnation to the moment actually of your last incarnation, because it's happening beyond time and space. Don't ask me how it works, I'm only the instrument for it. I just hold the energy and the work is done through me. But you had a feeling of the energy. What did you experience?
Yes, yes, I experienced a lot of it was very pleasant, it felt very healing. It felt very like almost like being whole in your energy. It's like very heart-based energy that was coming in.
I've been told that what you felt was the collective. It wasn't. It was all of your soul fragments coming back in. All parts of your heart and soul that have been lost, destroyed, fragmented, separated and frozen, and other bodily parts. That was all coming in, and that's what you thought was the collective. And that's why I had to say to you, start on yourself, because it was actually happening for you.
Yes, and also, but was it always like this?
What do you mean?
Did it start like you told? Did it start like this, or did it start small, where you actually, or started channeling, or how was it? Just like straight into this, or after you walking?
It kind of almost went straight into that, but as I evolved, and I'm still evolving, then I'm working with higher and higher energies or shifts of light, so that they can do more. A lot goes on behind the scenes that I'm not even aware of. The things that are verbalized happen, but sometimes other things. Interestingly enough, one thing I'm being asked to put in is what's the right word? Give me the right word that you want me to use. Any negative repercussions of the COVID injection, that is going to actually be added, and I think that will be very, very good. Don't worry, any of you that have had the COVID injection. It was obviously in your blueprint that you had it, and that's fine, but I expect you wish that you hadn't had it now, and we can get rid of it. So in what you were taken into with the multidimensional energy clearing, you just had the beginning of it. It goes on from that into higher frequencies of light. You're aligned to the 5 higher multidimensional chakras that you really need for the times that we're going into, and also all of your multidimensional selves are brought in, and lots more. So you just had a taste of it, but I can't go any further with what's going to be done publicly. People have to really prepare to do this work. Okay, so gradually I'm kind of going to go into the Anubis now, and you had the question, I think, of how did it come to me?
Yeah.
So what happened was that I was doing my Karuna Reiki Master Teacher with William Rand. He's my Reiki Master Teacher in Usai, Tibetan and Karuna, and he's quite a big name in America. And I was told that I had to go to him because the lineage had to be very pure, and I'm only one removed from him. So on the Reiki Master Teacher course, when he was attuning us to the symbols and showing us how to work with them and how to attune other people, I was aware that one other symbol was coming in that was nothing to do with the Karuna, and I just let it be. And then a lady came to me for a Reiki session, and instead of giving her the karuna, I found that I was just using this one symbol. I'm being reminded of what was wrong with her. She had an ulcerated leg and it was in danger of going gangrenous, and I just worked with this one symbol that I'd received, and it seemed to be working like really well, because after about 3 sessions, me just working with this one symbol, the leg had almost totally cleared up. So I kind of asked what I call my team, the light beings who work with me, that's always changing, so I have to call them my team as to what's needed in the moment, what I should do. And they said that in time, 7 symbols would come to me, but only 3 would come over the next few years. I'm trying to remember, this was 1996, so they said only 3 symbols would come until the year 2000, because they were preparing me to hold the voltage for the higher vibrational symbols. So I received the other 2 symbols, 3 in total. And then when I attuned people to Karuna Master Teacher, I thought, well, I'm not going to waste these symbols. So I gave them the Karuna symbols, and then I attuned them at a different level to the 3 of the Anubis. And they all said these are different altogether to the karuna, they're a much higher frequency. So I said, well, yes, I know, but I've only received 3 of them, and there's going to be 7, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them or what's going to happen, so I'm not going to waste them. So that was the beginning of it. And then in the year 2000, I was in a relationship, and the thought was put in my head that we should go and see, he should go and see a hypnotherapist. And I thought, well, I might as well book myself in as well. So we both turned up at the hypnotherapist's place, and he said to me, I'll take you first. So I said, okay. And he said, why have you come? I said, I've no idea. So he said, okay, I'll put you under and we'll see what happens. So luckily, he had a pen and paper, well, actually a pencil and paper, but whatever he had. He put me under, and I went into a past life where I remember being a priestess of Isis. And the rest of the symbols just came in, and the attunement process just came in, and all of these past lives were just flooding back, and lives, not life. I remember being a priestess in Abydos and Dendera in ancient Egypt, and I think the session only lasted for 45 minutes, and he was scribbling things down. Maybe it was an hour. And then I went and sat in the car while Mark was having his session, and I pieced it all together. So then I had the foundations of the system, but I didn't know the relevance of the symbols. So then I was working at that time with a group from Mark's home in Cheshire. We were meeting every fortnight. My home was in Bournemouth in the south of England, and his was in the north in Cheshire. And we were working between the 2 with groups. So we were meeting once a fortnight, something like that. And I asked the group if they would sit with me after the day had finished, just for the significance of the symbols. And they said they would. So then the Ascended Masters and the rest of the team came in with all of the rest of the information of what the symbols were to be used for now. Because in ancient Egypt it was different, we're in different times, we need different things. So although the symbols were the same, they put a different frequency into the symbol. And they're asking me to explain actually what the symbols mean when you have Reiki, because as you know, when you have a Reiki 1, there isn't a symbol. Then you go on to Reiki 2 and you get the usui, shokure, daikomyo, seiheki, and then you go on to Master Teacher or Master Practitioner, and you get the 2 master symbols. Well, you do if you're doing the Tibetan, otherwise you get 1 master symbol. So a different frequency would be put into each of those symbols. It's like an alchemy, and it's as to what the Reiki master invokes as to what alchemy they put into each symbol. So the usui system is very different to the Tibetan. The Tibetan system is very different to the karuna, which I feel is a higher frequency and connects you very much more with the Ascended Masters and gives you symbols to work with like past lives, opening the heart chakra, releasing dysfunctional patterns, things like that. And then we have the Anubis, which now goes with the government health warning, because I have to actually now ask people to fast and to detox for so many days before we work, because I was finding that when that didn't happen, the results weren't what I was expecting, or the people were getting a little bit sick. They were certainly getting results, but I knew that something else had to be put into this. And then I was given the idea that they had to fast, and anything between like 3 days, that's the minimum. And one lady, she's having to fast for 3 weeks because she's got quite a lot wrong with her. So I can't tell you exactly what happens during the Anubis attunement, because again, I'm not here. I can't tell you what frequencies go into each of the symbols, because it's not down to me. And all I know is that because they're telling me this in this moment, they're changing the frequencies more and more as I evolve, which is very, very interesting. I didn't know that. And that's why people are having to fast now when they didn't before. Because one day I was working with someone she was a Reiki master teacher in the Usui, and she asked me for a multidimensional energy clearing. I said, yeah, great, fine. This wasn't Anubis, it was the multidimensional. And I said to her afterwards, what happened? Did you drink coffee? And she said, yeah, I had a cup just before we worked. And I thought, oh my God, you should have known that you don't do that as a Reiki master. So any Reiki masters out there, you don't drink coffee before you give an attunement. I ended up, with quite a bad headache. And I don't think that she got the highest vibration she could have done. So that I think this is opening up to a bigger subject here, actually, which is about Reiki masters in general. Many master teachers of any kind of system of Reiki, they don't realize what a responsibility it is. Many of them have been attuned for nothing, or they've been attuned maybe from someone who's been taking drugs, or they've been attuned from someone who doesn't understand about energy, or they've been attuned by somebody who doesn't tell them to prepare themselves. Before you have a Reiki attunement on any level in any system, there should be preparation. There should first of all be a connection between you and the Reiki master. You should be asking whoever works with you from the levels of light, and there will be beings, to guide you to the right person. And that will be the person that vibrates at your, what I want to call signature, your frequency at that time. And that won't be the Reiki master that you'll need when you kind of go up different levels. So always there should be a preparation with the Reiki master and with I'll call it the student. There should be an understanding and a knowing that you're going into something very sacred, that you're being switched on to healing on a frequency that makes you vulnerable to what you can give out, and it makes whoever's coming to you vulnerable as well. And I'm talking not just about the attunement process, but afterwards, when you're going out to heal people, you need to be understanding that you're carrying a code, you're carrying a frequency from your Reiki master. Your Reiki master would have been giving you the highest frequency that he or she was attuned to and that you could take. And this is why I now work one-on-one, because when you work in groups, I was seeing that the highest frequency of that group, their frequency had to come down and the lowest frequency had to be raised, so that there was a middle line for everyone to receive the attunement. Because when the Reiki master invokes the attunement and it's in a group, that one frequency is coming through for everyone. So that's not everyone's individual code or signature. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's why now I'm only working on one-to-one. But don't worry, if you've had your Reiki in a group, that was perfect, that was in your soul contract, that was what you were ready for, that was what you contracted to do. I'm sure that you're doing wonderful work with the people that you're working on. But just remember now that you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to meditate and prepare yourself, to fast before you work, and to tell the person that's coming to you either to be attuned or coming for you to work on holistically, to prepare themselves, and that you're give me the word, the right word to use here. You're bonding in a sacred covenant between the two of you that's beyond time and space, where alchemically higher vibrations of light are put through the Reiki master as to what evolutionary frequency they can bring through, and the people will be guided to them as to that frequency. Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Beautiful said, wow. Wow.
Just see if anything else wants to be said around that, because I think that's a really important thing to get out, because so many people, I share this, it's a lovely story actually. I want to share it on here, yeah? We're okay for time?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Japanese lady from Hong Kong, she telephoned me and all I could hear was Anubis, 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 and I didn't understand what she was saying. She didn't understand me, so she would have to message me over Messenger, then I would have to answer. She would have to translate it by copying and pasting it. And then I got to understand that she wanted to do the Anubis Reiki Masters with me. And I explained to her that wasn't possible. I couldn't take her straight into Anubis Masters teacher, but I could do 1 and 2 practitioner if she would go to my Light Centre Camelot in Glastonbury. So she did 3 days there, and that was her 3 days of preparation for Anubis. And during that time, quite a lot of things happened to her. The first night she woke crying because her friend who'd passed to spirit quite recently came to her and greeted her. She had lots of experiences within her body. She felt energies with her, guides, maybe masters. She felt energy moving in her crown. She felt lots of things even before the attunement process happened. And then when we did the attunement and multidimensional energy clearing, that evening I would explain to her through Messenger how to work with the symbols, and again she would ask me questions. And then I've been checking in on her for like every 2 days since then, and she's had many experiences, a lot of energy moving. Sometimes she feels like so high she can't sleep. Another time she feels quite sad. All this is normal after any attunement, but especially with the Anubis. So I've seen from that it actually does need a preparation time. I have another lady who's got to wait 21 days because she's had quite a lot wrong with her. She's in North Portugal. And then I've got a man in Belgium. He's already been waiting 2 weeks. He's probably going to work with me on Thursday. Because that was the guidance that I got, that he had to wait so many days in order for the preparation to happen. Because it's like having an operation on your whole auric field. It's not just a case of just having the attunement. Everything in your auric field has to be like loosened, like you were having an operation. You'd first of all go into hospital, you'd have tests, the doctor would come and speak to you, the anaesthetist would come and carry out some tests. There'd be a lot of preparation. So it's the same I've seen now, that as I evolve more and hold a higher frequency, and as the Anubis is constantly evolving, that we need this time, anything from 3 days to 3 weeks so far, in order to prepare the ground. It's like the lady from North Portugal, she can feel that all of her old stuck emotions are being loosened up. She's gone through quite a lot with that. But she can see what's happening, and she knows that she'll be able to kind of get rid of it for good, which she's really thankful for. So the Anubis gets rid of everything from the beginning of time to the end of time, on planet, off planet, intergalactically. Everything is just brought up to the surface and transmuted into love, really. It starts with a very deep relaxation process, and then from there, I think the ascended masters come in, and then there's a chakra balancing, unless it's the other way around, I can't remember because I'm not there. And then from there we have, what do we have from there? Well, everything that happens on the multidimensional energy clearing and realignment happens first, because I always do that preceding now the Anubis attunement, and then I give the Anubis attunement 1 and 2 together. And I'm guided to work in this way because then that person is vibrating on the highest possible vibration that they can, because everything's been cleared from their auric field and subtler body. And so am I. I'm actually vibrating on the highest frequency that I'm able to as well. So that we pull in the highest vibrational frequency guides to put the alchemy through the symbols in order to attune whoever has come. So it's a much more involved process than I used to think it, whereas you just go in and give the attunement like in usai or Tibetan or karuna, and it's kind of a done deal. With the Anubis, there has to be this preparation time.
So it sounds like it's about raising the vibration. And how can people, or how can one raise their vibration?
Well, a one or a person can't raise their vibration. That would be impossible. You have to completely surrender self. I surrender to, say, Baba. You can surrender to Jesus, whoever you feel, Archangel Michael, whoever you feel an affinity with. You have to lay your whole life and mean it into their hands, saying, thy will be done. And then you have to wait for the movement. It's like nothing happens without the movement. It's like if you got up and walked over to the pool, the movement would be there first. Well, it would be simultaneous actually, but your brain would get it first and then the movement would happen. If you decide to go back to normal, the movement happens. If you decide to eat something, the movement happens. You can't do anything at all without the movement. And the movement is coming from the divine. There is only the one. So it may seem like you're doing something, but in actual fact, you're not. We would like to explain that everything is just oneness. If you like, you're all the divine, everything is the divine sparks of God, the creative principle. Call it I am, call it God, call it unified consciousness, call it what you want to. And let's just say that God got bored one day and split himself into thousands of pieces so that he could actually bring them all back to himself and watch the play of consciousness as it unfolds. Because this is all this life on planet Earth is. It's a play of consciousness. You come to life, you come to Earth to evolve. Your soul has a contract. You speak with your spiritual advisors in the realms of light to discuss what lessons you need to learn in this incarnation and who you need to integrate with. And there are people like family members, children, spouses, maybe jobs, everything that you need to learn in this lifetime, karmic debts that you need to repay from past lifetimes. Everything is talked about beforehand. And the moment you're born, that is not a chance happening. You choose the moment you're born. There's no such thing as a premature birth. There's no such thing as an overdue baby. The baby will always come the moment that it allocated that the time was right. And then there is a footprint in the heavens, the constellations, the footprint in the heavens of that soul's destiny. And then the constellations, the planet, will actually guide that soul. So there isn't any really free will. The only free will is God's will, because there isn't any movement without the unified consciousness moving it. So you might just as well surrender to that in the beginning. If you think about it, you can't be anywhere else or doing anything other than you are doing. So what is the point in not just surrendering to that and accepting that? You can't do anything right and you can't do anything wrong, because basically you're an instrument of consciousness. Consciousness is the doer. Consciousness is evolving within you as it is within every other aspect of consciousness on the planet. Everything is at different levels of consciousness. This is what makes the play, shall we say, so interesting. I refer to the play, I give you an analogy. If you go to a film, you sit back and you watch it. There's a white screen and then the projector rolls and then you're enthralled in the movie. You know it might be somebody's getting shot, it might be somebody's getting raped, it might be a love scene where they're falling desperately in love. It might be lots of children that are coming from an orphanage. It could be anything. It could be a war. It could be Armageddon. Just think of anything that you could watch on the movies. And then after the movie's over, you come back to you. You were so enthralled in it, you forgot who you were. And then you come back to you who you think you are. But the you think you are is also part of the play, because within the aspect of the you who you think you are, you are the divine aspect of creation which is moving you. So if you surrender to this movement, then your destiny will unfold exactly as it's meant to, so much easily, more easily, easier. Get it right in a minute. Just kind of get yourself out of the way. You don't own anything. You've never owned any money. You've never had any children. You've never had a relationship. You've never owned a house. You've never owned a boat. You've never gone to work. You've never been born and you've never died. Basically, you're an aspect of consciousness that has never been born and it's never died. And it's just going through here, let's call it a plane. It's all kind of experienced on a higher level. I'm just going to try and kind of explain this in words that are understandable and maybe easy to understand with something that is actually quite difficult to grasp. So I think many people are asking at this moment of time, why is the world in such a mess? Why is the world going crazy? Why is the stock market going down? Why is there a war in Russia and Ukraine? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why is this craziness accelerating? It's because we're at an epoch, actually, the end of an age, a time in planetary consciousness when there's a big division now between the light and the dark. This is happening because our planet Earth, is evolving into a different trajectory, actually towards the, give me that again. Oh, I'm not meant to have it, okay. It's going on a different trajectory. If you can imagine that there's a big wheel, and our planet shifts forward and everything preceding that has already moved and everything behind it is also moving. So everything moves in a great big circle. And we're all a part of that because everything is consciousness. Everything is molecules and cells that are vibrating at different frequencies and seem to give us a picture, which actually is not the reality. So all these molecules now are shifting into a different picture, and we're going into a higher vibrational frequency. Some people call it the golden age. We're at the end of a Kali Yuga age. Some people call it ascension. There's lots and lots of names for it. But the real meaning of it is it's evolution. So you are evolving with every aspect of consciousness that is also evolving. But of course there are different aspects of consciousness on the planet. You have to have the light and you have to have the dark. You've got to have the war in Ukraine. You've got to have everything basically that would encompass a good movie. In actual fact, there's no difference between Hitler and Jesus Christ. They just wore different costumes, but they came to play a role. There's no difference between, say, let's just think, say you, for instance, and Princess Diana. Princess Diana came to Earth with a purpose. She came to Earth to open the heart chakras of humanity. She prophesied her death. She knew that she would die in a car accident. She knew that she would die young. She knew she would die early. And it happened. She died, I think, on a Sunday, if I remember. I was doing a workshop, and at 11 o'clock she came in, and immediately I got Prince Philip. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories because that's all part of the illusion as well. So I just want to explain that everyone here is playing a part. You're playing your part. Obviously, play it to perfection with the movement that you have. There isn't any right, there isn't any wrong, there's nothing to feel guilty about, there's nothing to feel proud about, because really you're just an instrument of consciousness that's here on Earth in its own evolutionary cycle that is already predestined. On a level out of time and space, all of this grand play was written, and now it filters down into the dimensions of time and space that are much slower. And now you think you're the doer. You think you're the one sitting on a chair. You think you're the one meeting a friend. You think you're the one that's doing so well at your job. You think you're the one that did so well to buy a house and to bring up such wonderful children. In actual fact, you did nothing. You couldn't do anything because there's only the divine spark within you that can unite you with who you are, and that is way beyond your form. So it's a time of remembering now. It's a time of remembering who you are, raising your vibration in complete surrender to oneness, and remembering to do that you can't have any stories, you can't have an identity, you can't be that person who had an alcoholic son or had another son with brain tumour or had a daughter that didn't speak to her or had a husband that was violent or went through any kind of persecution, had a mother that didn't love her, had a father that didn't understand her. All these are just labels, but they make you who you are in your world, in your reality. But they're really telling nothing about you at all. They're just I can't even get the word out. They're just something that's hiding who you really are. So you have to now to begin to unwind the film, start to take back the layers of the onion, to expose the divine spark of creation, which is your true reality and why you're here. You've come to this earth with a purpose, and that is to evolve as much as you can. The highest gods in the heavens, they would give themselves to have the opportunity that you have, because you can evolve much quicker in this vibration, this dense vibration, where you don't have the understanding of who you are and the total reality of everything. Through going through the university of life, you can evolve so much quicker than you could for millions of years in the levels of light. And the only way to evolve is by surrender. You can't do it any other way. It's an evolutionary process. The more you give up, the more evolved you become. The higher your frequency, the more you enjoy life, the happier you are, the more light you express. And you have to remember that you're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing it for your soul family, because we all come from a soul group. You're doing it for your families. There's a genetic bloodline. And we're doing it for each other. We're all like ripples on a pond. And as one kind of evolves, then it then streams out to others. So, and this is of course good or bad. So we're in the time now of real separation, and that's why these things are happening on the earth. And it's very difficult for people now to make that leap if they haven't prepared to go from the dark to the light. And our families especially are having great difficulties. Like, I'm evolving quickly and I'm bringing my sons along, and they're having great difficulties with that, because it's like all of their karma is activated very, very quickly. So everything is happening one after another, after another, after another. So it's not an easy process, but we have to do it, because this is such an evolutionary leap for our species, for humanity, for the collective. So I would say to you, don't worry what's going on in the world. Just stay in your own kingdom of heaven. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven lies within. Just go inwards, always follow the movement, whatever that movement says, no matter how bizarre it is. Like 3 years ago, I was guided to go to Portugal. I thought for 6 weeks to do planetary healing. Then I came in the COVID, so I came in November 2019, would it be? Something like that. Then in the January, I was very guided to put in for residence papers, because I found out that if you were there post-Brexit, you could do that. So I did that, not knowing why. That enabled me to stay 8 months that year, 8 months last year. And now I'm back again this year. And through that, I met you. You put that ad in the Spiritual Algarve saying that you were doing readings for nothing because you were practicing. I knew I had to meet you, not for a reading, but it was very nice, thank you, very good. But I knew that I had to connect with you. And so now this has happened. So I didn't know that 3 years ago when I followed the movement to come to Portugal. That movement may not be anything about getting a residence, because I don't have it yet. I may not go through with that. I don't know until the moment comes. But if I hadn't followed all of those movements from 3 years ago, we wouldn't be here now doing this. So always follow the movement. Don't try and analyze it with the mind. The mind will always block everything. The mind has a question, then it needs an answer, then there's another question for the answer, and then there's another answer for the question, and you'll keep going round and round in circles. Just forget all of that. Don't let your mind interfere. Just allow your intuition to bloom. The slightest movement that you know is coming from your inner guidance, then that will kind of become clearer and clearer as you allow that movement to grow in you. I can only call it grow in you. So even if you feel not to go home a certain way, just don't go home that way. You don't know what might have happened if you'd gone home that way, and you might never know what happened because you went home another way. It doesn't matter, you follow the movement.
Beautiful. Wow. And maybe you also want to talk a little bit of Sai Baba and your teachers and masters?
And I think there's something else we've missed though.
talk maybe about forgiveness?
Yeah, see what happens with forgiveness. Really, there's nothing to forgive. We're all just aspects of consciousness. Nobody did anything to you. You don't deserve anything. You don't not deserve anything. All of that is the illusion. If you just hold on to things, then that makes you unhappy, makes the other person unhappy. Just live in oneness. It's very important that we do that, and that wherever we go, we see that everyone is an aspect of the Christ, because we're all aspects of consciousness evolving here on planet Earth at this time, the University of Life. So we basically mirror our oneness in each other. And your greatest teachers, those that caused you the greatest unhappiness, they're basically the greatest light, because Lucifer himself is supposed to be the brightest of angels, because he said that he would enter the kingdom of heaven last. And when I look at my own scenario, and I went through, like, I think it was nearly 10 years of violence, I had the good part because I was in tune with my guides, I think, at that time, and they kind of upheld me through that. But of course my ex-husband was just demented and in a place of darkness. So we can't ever judge a situation. It's never what it looks like. Don't ever judge someone that they're bad or they're good. There's no difference, but just be thankful that you're not a murderer on death row. Because basically that was just what that soul contracted to do for that lifetime, and it was about the soul contracts it had to the person it murdered and the family and everything around that, and even the country. Oh, what an awful person to do these things, blah blah blah. But it's all to do with not getting engrossed in the movie. I mean, you can go to the other end of the spectrum. We've already mentioned Princess Diana, Mother Teresa. You can think of them as the saints, but just think of everything as an aspect of consciousness and don't judge it. You can't judge it from down here. It's just absolutely impossible. You'll just kind of get yourself really upset. You'll get yourself really in judgment. Just forget everyone that you think has ever done anything to you, because nobody ever has. It's all just been a learning experience where you can actually come to this point in your life to say, enough's enough. I don't want it anymore. I just want to die to myself. I just want to surrender everything to the divine spark that's within me. And I ask all the higher beings of light to assist me in that I may be a conduit, that I may be an instrument, that I may go out and touch others with this light, and they may be drawn to that light and have an understanding of that light, because that is the true reason for your being here on planet Earth. As I said, it's nothing to do with relationships, children. You've got to go through all that, excuse the expression, shit. You've got to go through all that. It's a purification process. It's like you've got to graduate from the University of Life to find out you've done nothing. That's the cosmic joke. So there's nothing to forgive because nothing really happened.
That's beautiful. Wow. And
you want me to talk a little bit about Sai Baba?
yeah, you can tell what your teachers and
Well, we'll see what comes through. Sai Baba called me in 1998. The first time I went to him, he called me in 1998. I've had several interviews with him. He's manifested this pendant of Durga. In all of the interviews, when he looked into my soul and said, what do you want? The first one I said, your love and your blessings. He let me have Pad Namaskar, bless my head. Every subsequent interview from there, and he said, what do you want? I said, I only want God. And then the second one, I just was crying and I said, I don't want the world anymore, Swami. I only want God. Will you help me? And he said, yes, yes, I will help you. It doesn't happen instantly. I don't even know if it's going to happen this lifetime, but you have to really be willing to die in the fires of liberation. He's put me through lots of kind of difficult things, it would seem, if I was like coming from a worldly aspect. I can share a little bit, why not? I have a son who's had many suicide attempts on drug overdoses with alcohol and cocaine and stuff like that. I have a son who's got a brain tumour in Marfan's. I have a daughter who hasn't spoken to me in goodness knows how many years. I have grandchildren by her I haven't seen. I have grandchildren by my son I've never seen. But all of this is a purpose. If I hadn't gone through all of that, first of all, I wouldn't evolve to the level I am now. And secondly, I wouldn't be free to travel in my work. If I was a normal mother, mother and grandmother, I would be at home like babysitting or picking up the kids from school or whatever. So don't ever judge what's happening in your life. That's really important, because you'll see maybe years later why that happened, or maybe not, but it doesn't matter. They're all just things that you have to go through. It's rather like you can't get gold until it goes through the furnace. So you're being put through the furnace, through the fires of liberation. And that's what happened to me once I came to Sai Baba. I spent 13 years, 6 months at a time, had many interviews with him, talked to me many times, not because I'm anyone special, but because he saw in me that I could be an instrument for him, that I was really seeking the divine. He says the only difference between me and you is that I'm God realized and you don't realize you're God. And that is so, so true. We have forgotten our own divinity, and that is why the world is in such a mess. If everyone just had this understanding and this remembering, and everyone just lived in the kingdom of heaven within, and everyone saw the Christ in everyone, and everyone just lived in peace and harmony, we'd be in the golden age. And that's where we're heading. And that's why this crisis has come about now. All the wars, all the persecution, all that's happening to the monetary system. These are people having to let go of everything they thought was meaningful to them, because, it's not. And they're going to find out that soon, because none of that is important. You were never born, you can never die, you never owned anything, you came in with nothing, you'll go out with nothing. So Sai Baba was a big influence in my life, he still is, and when he passed I asked for another living master, and then I went to John de Ruyter, and again that was beyond me, because when I first heard him I thought, I don't understand you, I don't want anything to do with you. But against myself I was guided to him. And I asked him how this could happen, and he said, if you're given to something deeper, it will get you to where you need to be, even beyond the self. And that proved to be true with him. And we had a brief 5-minute one-to-one. This was right at the beginning of my meeting with him. And he said to me, I said to him, do I need another living master? Because Sai Baba is very close to me, and I've been with him so many years. And he said, yes. So I said, well, how do I know which one? Because I've been with other masters. I'd just come off actually a retreat with a master in Arunachala when I went to John. And he said, go where the light burns brightest. And it didn't come through my mind, it came from my soul, and it just came out of my mouth, well, that's with you. And he said, well, then you have to come, and it won't be safe and it won't be comfortable. And it wasn't, but I've also learned through that year with him and the times before I was the year in his community when I was with seminars around the world. Through him and Sai Baba, I've learned very well now most of the time to learn the tightrope of living in this world while being in another. I think Jesus said to be in the world but not of it. The only way you can really walk in this world is to know that it is the illusion, and to know that whatever happens to you it is by the divine, because everything happens by the divine. There's only the one doing anything. We think there are others, but there are no others. All of creation is within us. There isn't anything outside of us. There is only the one unifying golden power that unifies everything. And it's calling everything back, every aspect of divinity, every aspect of consciousness, it's calling it back. It's an evolutionary cycle. It may take thousands of years, but in the blinking of God's eye, that's nothing. In the blinking of God's eye, this world creation was made and over. In the blinking of God's eye, we've just brought it into time and space, and we're kind of having to go through the motions, but just to kind of see that this is not the reality. You don't need to live in pain and everything like that. You don't need to have sorrow because a loved one died. There is no such thing as death. I took my own father's funeral. I was told by my grandmother in spirit right at the beginning, when I was 37 actually, my own spiritual awakening, that my father would die within 6 months and I would take his funeral. And I thought, my God, I've gone crazy. But it happened, and he did die, and I felt him beside me in his light body, upholding me throughout the whole service, because I thought, how am I going to feel when I have to press the button for the coffin to go down? But he was just there in his light body, just upholding me. And then my mother, she was an atheist. She didn't believe a word of anything, God or spirit or anything like that. But she died, and she was through just about every medium I was anywhere near for years. So, you can't die for the life of you, basically. There's two things here. There's what you really are, which is your divine spark, your divine essence, the creative principle, whatever you want to call it, God. Don't like that word because many people aren't religious and has a terminology with that. Or there's the self that you've made with all of its stories about what you own, who you are, how you feel, what you do, the whole thing that makes up who you are. So you just get rid of that, you just know that you're not that, and you just allow the divinity to express itself through you. Sounds simple, but you've got to burn in the fires of liberation first. So just look on every test and say thank you. Every kind of thing that you see as a bad thing is actually a gift, because you don't evolve when everything's going right in your life. You only evolve through pressure, all of the hard times. That's when your evolution takes place. So when you have these dramatic things, like I saw my son had tried to commit suicide right outside our house, and he was unconscious. That gave me a lot of pressure, obviously, but through that I evolved. So I can say thank you for that experience, and many others. Everyone has something in their life that could just, make an antidote of that.
Oh, yeah, good answer.
I mean, sitting on the beach and reading a book, if that's what you do in that moment, that's fine. That also is a movement of consciousness. But also, if whatever you're doing, don't term it good or bad, just see it as a movement, as we were talking about the film on the screen. Don't buy in that you're that person. Just take the clothes off and find out who you really are.
Yes. It's like you said earlier about losing the story and the identity and just let it unfold.
Yeah. In every moment, remember going back to your true essence, not the self. That means giving up control, giving up manipulation, giving up everything. And that's what's happening in the world today. Everything is being purified to go with the new frequencies that are coming in. So there will appear to be great losses, especially on the monetary scene, and wars and fears of nuclear wars. Oh my God, that's total annihilation for mankind. Well, bring it on, We'll start again from a more pristine part, on a higher level. We won't go back through all that stuff again. We're at the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. It's exciting.